Cheers and salutations. Welcome to another episode of Americans Learn. My name is Kit. Thank you so much for joining our channel. As always, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe and hit that ring bell notification. That way all of you are made aware when we upload new content upon our YouTube channel. And staying true to my word, I am once again going to follow through and stay in order by checking out another video from Sabaton history, but we're going to do things different. We're going to check out the history, but also play the music video, or either that, the video with the song in the history video that we're talking about. So Sabaton history is brought to our attention by all of you, our wonderful, hip, cool cats, you guys and gals in our audience. And for that, we are grateful and thankful that all of you are so faithful in informing us about channels we should check out, content we should know more about, and so much more. So without further ado, grab yourself a tasty snack and a tasty beverage, but also, please support Sabaton History, all their social media. They do phenomenal music. They have phenomenal projects that they're working on. So the original link to this video is in the description box below, but please follow all of their social media because it's the right thing to do. And I definitely know that you will do the right thing. And if not, hey, do it as a favor for me. Do it as a favor for me because Sabaton does a lot of great stuff. So enough of me talking because we're not here to hear me talk. We're here to get our learn on. So let's get ready to play this video in a 3, a 2, a 1.
The Battle of Verdun was the longest battle of the First World War, lasting over 300 days.
Jesus.
And yet, the attacking German army was unable to break through that symbol of French national pride.
And our song Fields of Verdun from our upcoming album, The Great War, is about that battle and the French slogan of courage, they shall not pass.
I just can't help but think of that scene from Lord of the Rings, You Shall Not Pass. For those of you who don't know, J.R.R. Tolkien served in the First World War, and that's what helped him inspire and help write and create the Lord of the Rings. It's very interesting to see. I never knew that. And in fact, if any of you have a documentary video that we should check out that might be related to J.R.R. Tolkien and his time serving in the First World War, type in the comment section below. Your feedback is fundamentally important.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Now, he's going to tell you a little bit about the song and the album, but I'm going to give you a little Verdun history lesson.
In late 1915, German Army Chief of Staff Erich von Falkenhayn was looking up and down the map of the Western Front. It had been more than a year since the stalemate and trench warfare had begun there. This is during the First World War. The home front was already suffering under the naval blockade, and he feared a war of attrition that the German Empire could only lose. He needed to go on the offensive. To Falkenhayn, the weakest point of the Western Front was the British sector, and attacking at Artois could, he believed, lead to a decisive breakthrough that would collapse the whole Western Front. But he'd learned the hard way that without eliminating or at least tying down the French beforehand, the defense would be too strong. So, to deliver the blow in the north, he would attack at a place further south that would draw in as many French forces as possible. It must be a place the enemy could not afford to lose for strategic or propagandistic purposes and would thus fight until wiped out. Such a place was Verdun. Verdun was not Falkenhayn's first choice, since it was a heavily fortified area. But it was also a commanding location. By capturing the heights east of the River Meuse and loading them with artillery, the Germans could constantly threaten the city and the local defenses, forcing the French to continuously attack the German defenses. The French would be tied down, and if they lost badly, the British would be forced to intervene. In the best case, they would hastily execute an offensive at the Somme, suffer heavy casualties as well, and open themselves up for a decisive German counterattack. Falkenhayn concluded that if Verdun was successful, there would be peace before the summer of 1916.
That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, buddy, that ain't going to happen.
The key to the attack was heavy artillery. Total destruction, then attack battalions and pioneers storming the hills in a wedge toward the mighty fortress of Douaumont, taking the remnants of the other fortresses that were surely destroyed by the heavy bombardment. Preparations were made over the winter, massing artillery pieces of all calibers and millions of shells. The attack was planned for February once the weather cleared. On the 21st of February, the bad weather finally cleared, and German aircraft and observation balloons hit the skies. At 7:12 a.m. came the order to attack. The largest concentration of guns in history to this point opened up in a violent concert, described by witnesses as the Symphony of the Devil. Even in the Vosges, near the Swiss border, could be heard the thunder of the German guns. In an intensity never seen before, the barrage destroyed whole forests, blowing trees meters high into the air and raining stones and earth on the poor souls on the ground. Some soldiers were simply obliterated, torn apart.
Ugh. Just even seeing the imagery alone, difficult to look at. And even then, you know, maybe I might be fast forwarding this just a little bit, but you know, the term shell shock, which would eventually come to the real term of what it is, PTSD, would come into existence. And I do have to say this, if you can help out organizations that are helping veterans deal with PTSD, please help if you can. It's just the right thing to do. And I know that there are many organizations associated with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So if you can, please consider helping out if you can, because PTSD is very real. And I encourage all of you to do the right thing and help out others who need help.
By the force of the guns. Others were buried alive deep in their trenches or bunkers. Then the German combat troops emerged from the saps with grenades, wire cutters, and flamethrowers. With the advantage of surprise, they stormed the first French lines. Through ice, rain, and snow, the soldiers fought as rifle shots and grenades burst in their midst. Trench after trench, the Germans gained a foothold, despite fierce resistance from well-camouflaged French machine guns and blockhouses. Thing is, for French Army Chief of Staff Joseph Joffre, Verdun wasn't that important, at least militarily. If the Germans could not be held on the east bank of the Meuse, the French would retreat and build new positions on the western bank. This was what Falkenhayn feared. But Aristide Briand made it perfectly clear that losing Verdun was not acceptable.
Yeah.
Not only would the psychological effect be disastrous for the French public, it would undermine trust in the current government. And if Briand lost his job, so would Joffre. So giving up Verdun was out of the question.
You hold the line.
This is exactly what Falkenhayn had hoped for. However, though the Germans advanced the first weeks, it was not nearly as far as Falkenhayn had calculated, and the French had brought in reserves and Philippe Pétain to lead the men. The most important heights were still far away and under French control, and taking the fortress of Douaumont was the key to those heights. Unlike the big fortresses in Belgium that had quickly fallen to modern heavy artillery at the beginning of the war, the French had used a stronger special concrete for Douaumont that just would not break. And the fortress soon seemed like an island in an ocean of fire and shrapnel. Small platoons of German soldiers that crept towards the fortress in early March found that it was actually mostly empty. And the strongest fortress of Europe was thus taken by a German officer with a pistol and a lot of guts.
That's pretty badass. You know, you would not expect one man and a pistol to do the job.
Fort Douaumont is for many the symbol of the Battle of Verdun. The Germans celebrated its fall, but Douaumont was a trap for the men inside. Every direct artillery hit put out the lights, and the men cowered in darkness for days, living in their own waste, sharing their food with rats and lice, while the stench of the dead and the screams of the wounded haunted the long corridors. But you know, this was actually still better than soldiers outside the fortress walls had to endure in the meat grinder that was Verdun. The French just had one supply road out of range of German artillery. Only trucks for military purposes were allowed to use that road, and soon over 3,000 trucks a day were bringing men, ammunition, and supplies up the road.
It's one thing to see this as a photograph, but can you imagine seeing that with your own two eyes, the amount of logistics, manpower, weapon, equipment, food, and other necessities just to go into the meat grinder? By the way, quick question. For those of you who've seen the latest version of it, All Quiet on the Western Front, is it something worthwhile to see? Please let me know. I have not seen it. I've yet to see Sisu as well. But I saw some of the comments section saying don't watch the trailer. I just only saw just one small trailer, but but it was only like a 30-second one. But I want to see it. So all of you said check out Sisu, but also what about All Quiet on the Western Front? Tell me, is it something worthwhile to see? Is it as good as people have said? Let me know.
Broke down, it was simply pushed off the road, which became known as the Voie Sacrée, the Holy Road. The German offensive began to drastically lose speed. The whole area of Verdun had become a maze of trenches and shell holes where death was always near. I mean that literally. This is only an area of 30 square kilometers, and the death toll grew to the hundreds of thousands. The name Verdun became synonymous with the mechanized death of the First World War. But it really bound the French together. Pétain had ordered a new rotation system.
Ha 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 ha! This guy, Pétain, Philippe Pétain, backstabbing traitor, punk. Jesus Christ, this dude. Of anybody, it's Pétain's that dude you don't invite to the party, but somehow he shows up to the party anyways. And you ask who invited him. Who invited him? Nobody wanted you.
Where no soldier was supposed to stay longer than 10 days in the front lines before being rotated out. This meant most soldiers in the French army had gone through Verdun. By April, the lack of progress was turning the whole idea of the Battle of Verdun into a farce. The more reserves Falkenhayn committed to the operation, the fewer he had ready for the real attack against the British. So Falkenhayn had to choose: stop the offensive and defend the gains that were made, or keep going with the offensive but with all available forces. Half measures were now unacceptable. He would keep up the offensive. As June arrives, Falkenhayn officially declares bleeding dry as the main aim of the offensive. But bad news now also arrives. Russian General Alexei Brusilov launches his offensive on the Eastern Front. It is a spectacular success, and Germany's ally, Austria-Hungary, might be knocked out of the war. German reinforcements bound for Verdun must instead head east immediately. And more bad news, the French now have air superiority in the west thanks to the new Newport 11 planes and air-to-air Lancier rockets. Time seems to be running out for a German victory at Verdun. Falkenhayn launches what he hopes is the final attack towards Fort Vaux and the heights around the village of Fleury. On the 7th of June, Fort Vaux falls. A victory for the Germans for sure. But is this the turning point at Verdun? Not quite, for Fort Souville still stands in the way of victory, and this the Germans cannot take. June marks the limit of their advance at Verdun. On June 23rd, French General Robert Nivelle gives his famous order: "Vous ne les laisserez pas passer, mes camarades," which was later shortened to "Ils ne passeront pas," they will not pass. And
Man, the dedication and the discipline to fighting. 300 days of fighting. My goodness, talk about a battle. And of course, we all know there are 316 days in a year. A year-long battle, a year-long fight. It comes as no wonder why people thought at the time that the First World War would be the last of the great wars, but it would only be a sign of things far more devastating to come.
indeed, they do not. The French hold out in June, And on July the 1st, the British relief attack begins at the Somme. The pressure there forces German reserves away from Verdun to the north. With the Russians still advancing in the east, there are no options for Falkenhayn available. He must dig in at Verdun as the three largest battles in history to this point all rage simultaneously. But by August, Pétain has a 7-to-1 advantage in artillery, and the German positions are pounded day and night. And as if things aren't bad enough, Romania joins the Allies. A new front and hundreds of thousands of new enemies emerge overnight for the Germans. Falkenhayn has lost the confidence of his Kaiser and then loses his job. Paul von Hindenburg and Erich Ludendorff take over running the German army. That, of course, does not mean that the battle is simply over, but it is France's turn to attack. Pétain brings in two 40-centimeter caliber railway guns to fire 900-kilo shells. That's around a ton each on Fort Douaumont, which finally cracks. 8 months after its fall, the French retake the fort in early November, and their counterattack is relentless. What the Germans captured over months of fighting, the French now retake in mere hours. By the end of 1916, the front lines are nearly back where they were in February. For a few kilometers of land, hundreds of thousands of men have died. The Battle of Verdun lasted 303 days and nights. Estimates of the total casualties run as high as 1 million men, though it was likely closer to 700,000. But still, it was the longest battle of the First World War. And for many of the war's soldiers, it was the epitome of brutal, mechanized modern war. Many veterans would later remember Verdun by its smell, the mixture of gas, bodies that lay for months unburied, and the mass graves that were churned up by artillery fire. Corpses that laid for months in the dead zones of no man's land were mummified.
Oh my goodness, the imagery of that. Even just hearing it. You know, again, it comes as no shock as the old phrase comes out, man's inhumanity to man. And the unnecessary killing that took place. Obviously, the ink is already dry. The First World War has come and passed, but you would think that the lessons from that horror would remain. But I guess humans have short-term memory. That's why I like to say on this show, just, please be kind to each other. Let's try and help each other out. The world has been burnt enough. It doesn't need to be burnt or torn down anymore. We're all in this together.
The faces frozen in their final expression before death. The soldiers advancing into the forward trenches often had to stomp over the corpses and body parts of their dead comrades. Only the flies and rats thrived at Verdun in 1916. Before Joachim talks about the song, I would like to spoil the moment with a side note. It has been accepted history for a century that Falkenhayn's intention was to bleed France dry at Verdun, but this may not be the case. Falkenhayn claimed that this was his plan from the get-go, and he wrote about it in his 1915 Christmas memorandum to the Kaiser. However, the Kaiser never mentioned such a memorandum, and there's no actual evidence that it ever existed. Falkenhayn may well have made all of this up as an excuse after the fact to explain away his failure. I did a whole episode about the Falkenhayn controversy on the Great War channel. The link is in the description. And now, back to Sabaton.
Okay, so new album, bunch of new songs. Now, how was it writing Fields of Verdun specifically?
Oh, to be honest, that was one of the harder ones.
Yeah?
We didn't know where to start, from which angle to cover it. I mean, we were stuck in a mountain of information, but then we just thought, well, let's just start and see where all this info that we have now read takes us. And that actually started to work out, you know.
Now, this album, The Great War, all of the songs have to do with the First World War.
Yes.
But is it a concept album like Tommy, where you have to follow a story? Or?
Oh, yes and no. Let's say it's got a red thread you got to follow or something.
Okay.
All events covered on the album
Yeah.
happened during the Great War.
Yeah.
But they're not chronological ordered.
Okay, so it's a Great War theme without being the Great War concept.
Yeah.
Like if Julio Iglesias and he does an album, and all the songs are about love, so he's got a theme.
Exactly.
He's got a theme on his album.
Well, that's a good name for it, a themed album, because it's not a true concept where we follow it from the beginning to the end.
Because of this particular part of that themed album, you're going to be doing a few things in Verdun this spring and summer, yeah?
Yes, but you weren't supposed to say that because that's a secret. You never heard that shit.
They're going to take him out back and make him do 100 push-ups.
You never heard that. We could cut it out if you really want.
No,
but-
never.
Oh, never.
This is live.
Yes, this is wow, we're going live.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom. For now, here is a few seconds of some of this unreleased music from the song Fields of Verdun from the album The Great War.
Fields of execution turn to wasteland from the grass. Thou shalt go no further, it was said they shall not pass.
And that's it for today.
But we'll see you next time and every time on Sabaton History.
So we're going to change things up here. And every time we're going to be watching anything with Sabaton History, you're going to get a bonus video. That's right. That's right. Because why? You're awesome. That's why. You're awesome. And we're going to check out Sabaton, Fields of Verdun, official music video. So let's get ready to enjoy it. I will keep my pausing. I will not pause during the music video. So sit back, relax, and listen to some music. And get ready to defend the line. They shall not pass.
As the drum roll started on that day, and 100 miles away, a million shells were fired, and the green fields turned to gray. The bombardment lasted all day long, yet the forts were standing strong. Heavily defended, but the traps been sprung and the battle's begun. Descending to darkness, 303 days below the sun, fields of Verdun, and the battle has begun. Nowhere to run, father and son, fall one by one, under the gun, thy will be done. And the judgment has begun. Nowhere to run, father and son, fall one by one, fields of Verdun. Though a million shells have scarred the land, one has the upper hand.
Oh!
About to trenches.
Ow!
The soldiers make their stand as the trenches slowly turn to mud and they quickly start to flood. There's a weight in every corner as they carry about through the trenches of blood. Descending to darkness, 303 days below the sun, fields of Verdun, and the battle has begun. Nowhere to run, father and son, fall one by one, under the gun, thy will be done. And the judgment has begun. Nowhere to run, father and son, fall one by one, fields of Verdun. Fields of execution turn to wasteland from the grass. Thou shalt go no further, it was said they shall not pass. The spirit of resistance and the madness of the war. So go ahead, face it and join the dead, though you die for your life, never asking why. Descending to darkness,
700,000 casualties. Mother of mercy. All right. Wow. Lot to unpack there, especially with the Battle of Verdun, Fields of Verdun. Checking out the music video as well as the history video dedicated to it. So, what can we say? 700,000 souls lost. As I said before, you would think that the lesson of the horror of that conflict would remain, so it would never, ever happen again. Well, we know a few years later on, there would be a sequel that no one asked for. But nonetheless, shout out to Sabaton History and Sabaton Channel, as well as this music video. My goodness, the attention to detail. No wonder they kept it secret. And it came out 4 years ago with 20 million views. Wow. Gonna definitely have to say that this is definitely a series that people should check out. And if you're not following Sabaton or Sabaton History, come on, what's wrong with you? Did you not see the video? Did you not see the dedicated history video? Do the right thing. The original link is in the description box below. You can follow all their social media. Please follow all their social media. I know one thing. I never knew that much about the horror of Verdun. And yes, I did read the comment section. A lot of you said that the channel that's dedicated to World War II is something that has a lot of detail to it. So I'm going to be checking it out. Indy Nidell has done some phenomenal work. So, hey, support his content as well, because let's face it, folks, it's the right thing to do. And if you love history, you're going to do the right thing and support all the original content creators, because it's the right thing to do. So keep your heads on a swivel, drink water, let us all take care of each other. We're only here for a short time on this planet we call Earth. Let's try and make it a little bit better. I said try. We may not succeed, but let's at least put in the old college effort to do the right thing. Till then, take care.